I'm going to speak about distance and pixelization by quickly mapping social relations as they transit analog and digital realms, or what Ricardo Dominguez has called meat space, our bodies, and data space, which includes the internet, surveillance, credit card transactions, and so on. And I'm going to speak specifically of drones or unmanned aerial vehicles as part of a larger military capital apparatus, an apparatus that takes lines of flight between these material and virtual realms. So I'm going to start with an epigraph, 3 statements paraphrased from Walter Benjamin's artwork essay. The first one is, 1, machine-age technology reduces the use of human beings to the minimum. 2, the achievements of machine-age technology might be said to culminate in remote-controlled aircraft that needs no crew. Benjamin wrote this in 1935, 1936. And then Benjamin takes a leap and he says that the origins of machine-age technology lie at the point where human beings first begin to distance themselves from nature. He says it lies, in other words, in play. This photo is entitled Child with a Toy Hand Grenade in Central Park, New York City, by Deanne Arbus, 1962. What is play if not a kind of rehearsal? Olmsted and Vaux's design of Sheep's Meadow, which we saw early this morning on the west side of Central Park between 66th and 69th Streets, was originally designed and used as a parade ground for military drills. Here's a photograph of one such drill, a drill being another kind of rehearsal. I have always loved this photograph, partly because it reminds me of myself. I actually looked like that when I was a kid too. Although if I were a kid today, I would be playing in a digital World of Warcraft instead. There are 2 graphs. The first occurs around the 40-minute mark in the film Obedience, a documentary about the Milgram experiment, an infamous test of social psychology, performed the same year as the Arbus photograph was taken. And here I want to think about things like drills and tests and experiments as forms of play, as rehearsals of reality. So briefly, teachers on the right in this image were ordered to give electrical shocks to students whenever the students made a mistake answering a test question. This was at Yale University. These kinds of pedagogical methods of the Ivy League have since been altered. Note that the students on the left, I'll just go back, the students on the left were actors as if in a play. They actually were not wired up to electricity, but the teachers didn't know that. The real test subjects in this experiment were the teachers, who were determined to be willing or to refuse to be willing to give electrical shocks on command. So the graph, entitled Mean Maximum Shocks in Experiments 1, 2, 3, and 4, shows a negative correlation between proximity and electrical voltage that test subjects would be willing to apply to others. Simply put, the closer a victim is, the less likely that they will be victimized. This closeness is sensory, so that a remote victim, a victim whose ability to communicate resistance is limited to pounding on the wall between them, was more than twice as likely to be given lethal levels of voltage than one who was in physical contact with their victimizer, touching them. There is a gradient of empathy over space that increases from sound to sight to touch. And this empathy curve can be altered by the insertion of authority and the insertion of technology, or to put it another way, through the distancing of ourselves from nature. The second graph is from Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman's book on killing, entitled Resistance to Killing as a Function of Distance. And I'm using the word distance the way an architect would think. It extends the premise of the Milgram experiment into the playfields of war and shows a low resistance to killing among soldiers where there is a far physical distance from target, and a high resistance to killing where there is a close physical distance from target. Written in 1995, a decade before the advent of drone assassinations, it extends the premise into the sexual range with a highest resistance to killing and out to the max range bomber artillery with the lowest resistance. Creech Air Force Base in Nevada is where American soldiers pilot their drones on interfaces designed to emulate video games. Distance is extended via a data cable that transits the continental United States, then undersea across the Atlantic Ocean to Europe, most likely through Canadian territorial waters, south of Nova Scotia, where it passes through the European Union to an American Air Force base located in Ramstein, Germany. These social relations of killing then transit up through the atmosphere into outer space to a geosynchronous orbiting military satellite and back down to the drone, which finally executes the command. This distance includes a time lag of a second or so, an inertial moment when the soldier can see the victims on the screen after the command for the shot or the press of a button has been taken, but before the kill has occurred, and the kill occurs a second or so before the soldier can see it. Chelsea Manning is a political prisoner for making this video, among other data available to the public. No one has gone to prison for these war crimes. In the digital visual realm, larger pixels decrease sensory proximity so that a soldier can see that it is a person that they are killing, but they can't tell if it's a man or a woman or a child. 2 children in this case, girls, among others. They certainly can't tell if it's a civilian or an alleged militant, as demonstrated by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism's Naming the Dead. This is a nice piece of big data. You can even filter it by presidency. As of 2014, only 704 of the 2,379 people killed by drone have been identified. Of these 704 named dead, 322 are reportedly civilians, of which 99 are children and 295 are alleged militants. 87 are classified as unknown. In other words, they're dead. We know their names, but we don't know if they're civilians or alleged militants, what's called known unknowns. All of the rest, over 1,500, we don't even know their names, much less who they are, unknown unknowns. The degree of pixelization is designed, and these civilian ratios of death are an outcome of that design. I have hundreds, almost 1,000 drone images in my research files, each more beautiful than the last. And there's something to be asked of these photographs. Why are they designed to operate in an aesthetic realm? Why are they designed to operate in an aesthetic register? What work do they do? Who are these images for? The preserved image for our consumption, the unmanned aerial vehicle for their destruction, how the two elements interplay, destruction and preservation. The President of the United States of America, the current one, Barack Obama, chairs Terror Tuesday meetings in which he decides who to assassinate by drone, chosen from what was originally known as the kill list. After its existence became public, it was renamed, with a wink to George Orwell, the Disposition Matrix. Signature strikes, a special kind of drone assassination, do not target individuals. They rather select spatial location, geometric configuration, and social relation as criteria for assassination. The National Security Agency, known as the NSA, labels this type of information metadata. On July 6, 2008, a drone hit a group of children at a wedding party in the Nangarhar province of Afghanistan, killing them instantly. After waiting until enough time had passed for their mothers to run to their dismembered bodies, a second drone hit the same location, killing many of them. This is known by drone operators as a double tap. The term hammer is a double tap taken with no intention to verify the effect of the first hit. Well, the bride survived the hammer, not having had children yet. A triple tap got her as she was fleeing the happiest day of her life. 8 men died as well, but they count as militants by the definition used in the Disposition Matrix that every military-aged male killed in a drone strike is a combatant, including, one would assume, the groom, the father of the bride, the best man. What natural material could society offer technology if war were denied it? Instead of deploying solar power stations across the land, society deploys destruction in the form of weaponry. Instead of dropping food and medicine to Syrians under siege, it drops incendiary white phosphorus over Palestinian cities. And as Benjamin says, through gas warfare on our own civilian populations, the aura is abolished in a new way. Jasper Van Lonen's DIY Drone It Yourself graduate project at the PIXELIZATION Institute gives away, for free, downloadable 3D printable STL files of personal drones, here letting a bike rim take flight, and in the process reorients agency away from the military and away from capital on whose behalf the military act, and shows that anything can become a drone and we can do anything with one. We just have to act for ourselves with empathy.